The Chase Sapphire Preferred Card just got a major update. This includes new multipliers, new and improved credits and promotions, and pretty big changes on the travel side. We'll run through all the changes and then deep dive into them. Big favor, give us a thumbs up to help with the algorithm. If you know someone that might benefit that needs to know about this update, then share this with them. Okay, starting with the multipliers, we have two new ones. You're going to get 3x points on gas purchases and electronic vehicle charging. We'll get into this, but I'd argue that this is a game changer. Oh, and also this does include Costco gas stations, since that codes as gas. The other one is 3x points on vacation home rentals, including Airbnb and Vrbo. Same idea here, Airbnb is a weak spot across all cards, so this feels like a smart business move. Heading into some travel perks, the positive is that they are improving some travel protections. They're adding emergency evacuation and transportation coverage. This previously wasn't on the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card, so it is a new benefit. Depending on the other cards you have, it might not matter though. One benefit that they are getting rid of is the 10% anniversary bonus. To be fair though, I'd argue that it was pretty immaterial, and even if you spent, let's say, 25k on the card, that's only 2,500 points back. It sounded good in principle, but it doesn't really move the needle. On a points basis, I doubt it costed that much, probably more about having a team managing the feature more than anything. The other negative is transfer partners. For transfers from Chase points to Hyatt points, they're changing the rate from 1-to-1 to 4-to-3. Not a good change, and we'll get into it, but it means that 100,000 Chase points would transfer to become 75,000 Hyatt points. Airlines are unaffected though, so if your focus is first and business class flights, then you're fine for now and nothing to worry about here. Okay, last up, we have the annual fee and new credits. The annual fee is staying at 95, and I'm pleasantly surprised here, especially since they are increasing the annual hotel credit through Chase Travel from up to 50 to up to 100, so pretty much doubling it. For most people that travel, this effectively covers the annual fee and makes this into a break-even or a keeper card. Oh, also if you have currently used the up to $50 hotel credit, you'll get an additional up to 50 credit. If you haven't used it yet, then it's up to 100, no optimization there sadly. One that is a bit less tangible to me but still nice is the up to 120 every 4 years as a reimbursement for global entry, TSA PreCheck, or NEXUS. If you have other cards, you might already have this, but nice to see in addition. The last one is a complimentary Apple TV Plus subscription for 1 year. This is normally $12.99 per month or $99 per year. Lots of TV shows and movies, especially if you are trying a different platform. Your mileage may vary there, but still a positive addition. On a side note, if you are someone that wants to learn about cards, whether this one or pretty much any other card out there, and you want to support the channel, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense for you, but otherwise it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. If you are on the fence, I'd strongly recommend running the numbers. We have a calculator where you can change your spend numbers, how you value points, and also the credits for your exact situation. The math has to math. I'll link it down below, and it should also pop up if you Google AskSebby CSP, worth it. Now that we have an idea of the changes broadly, let's do a deep dive. To me, the 3x on gas and EV charging is a game changer. Chase historically has not had this as a reliable category. You might see it as part of the 5% ones, as part of rotating categories, but nothing consistent. This is a stark contrast to Citi, who has it on their $95 annual fee card. If you spend a lot in this category and you don't want to juggle multiple cards, then 3x is a great baseline. If your spend is lower, let's say $500 a month or $1,000 a quarter, there might be better options that net you 4 or 5%, so depends on you there. Most people don't want 10 cards though, so I'd argue that it's still a positive. Also, funny enough, this is something that has long been requested for years, so glad to see it finally happen. The next one is a bit weird. So after the Chase Sapphire Reserve got refreshed, a lot of people who were Team Airbnb ended up leaving. So the Chase Sapphire Reserve went from 3x broadly for travel to 8x through their portal, and 4x on flights and hotels booked directly. This did end up matching their direct competitors. For example, Citi was just hotels and through Citi Travel. Capital One does have vacation rentals, but it still has to be through Capital One Travel. The new multiplier on the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card, to me at least, is a way to win back the Airbnb and Vrbo crowd. Okay, but how big is this audience? Revenue probably isn't the best tracker, but it's the one that's publicly available. Taking a look, Airbnb has $12.65 billion in the last 12 months in trailing revenue. This actually beats out IHG, who's only at $5.2 billion, and then Hyatt at $7.1 billion. It technically beats both of them even combined together. Airbnb's 12 matches Hilton's 12, and unsurprisingly, Marriott dwarfs everyone at $26 billion. And again, probably not the best measure, but the point is that a lot of people do prefer Airbnbs. This to me feels like a way to win that audience back and to maybe encourage them to have both this card and the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Okay, switching to the travel perks, we saw the same argument to have both cards, but less good here. If your main transfer option is Hyatt, and especially if you transfer a sizable amount of points, you probably want to have another card. Luckily, there are options like the two flagships, the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business. If you are on team flights for award travel, you're arguably unaffected since the rates are the same. You do lose a bit of optionality, but if you never cared anyways, then it doesn't really matter. It just depends on you there. If you don't want to have multiple travel cards, then emergency evacuation and transportation coverage are great additions. It is on a lot of other flagship cards and a nice to have, especially if the alternative is buying travel insurance. It's just good to know that if I'm going skiing and let's say I break my leg or something worse happens, then I'm not going to be out 20K or 90K for an air ambulance to get me to the hospital. I'm a pretty careful skier, but you never know. Okay, for the last deep dive, let's look at the annual fee and new credits. This all kind of ties together. Bumping up the annual hotel credit makes the card a keeper or break-even card, and again makes it easier to have both Sapphires. Even if you do discount it, if you travel once a year, it's pretty easy. Also, even if you don't like the idea of coupon books, this isn't really that. The card originally had a $95 annual fee and no credits. This is that same $95 with $100 in tangible credits that you probably will use. In the best case, you're lowering that effective annual fee number. Worst case, 95 is still 95. The crazy thing too is that they're kind of justified to increase the fee. So they launched the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card back in August of 2009, about 17 years ago. $95 in 2009 is equivalent to $147 in 2026. A jump to $150 is objectively fair. I'm guessing the reason they didn't do it was that it didn't test well focus groups, or they were worried about the downside risk just not being worth it. But yeah, kind of curious what you would think if they did bump that fee up. For the global entry and TSA PreCheck credit, I'm guessing it doesn't cost them that much, and it's also not annual, so not a big deal. People might already have it, so no cost on their end if you're not using it. On the other hand, people just starting out appreciate it, and it's a nice way to get them into your ecosystem. For the complimentary Apple TV subscription, I'm curious if Apple fronts this as a means of getting new customers. Apple signs up a lot of new customers, Chase has a new benefit, and it ends up being a win-win. If the person renews long-term or even another year, then Apple is probably a happy camper. Especially since buying the rights to TV shows and movies is expensive, and same too if you're producing original content. Even if you create great content, if you don't get people in the door to watch it, it doesn't really matter. That's kind of also what's happening. Netflix dominates Apple for raw viewership at 325 million compared to a top number of 45 million. Apple TV is creating award-winning content and pretty quality stuff. On the flip side, Netflix's best performing content is reality TV and borderline slop content. It's very much junk food, but it does really well. I do mostly watch Netflix, but I feel like I'm not on that side of it. Here's a screenshot of my recommended feed, and it's mostly just good background shows like House of Cards or Ozark or Russian Doll. Even if Chase is paying for something, I feel like it's a fraction of the price. The point of these branded credits is acquisition, so people discovering Apple TV's Oscar-winning content. I am curious what you think is going on behind the scenes and what the economics look like. Okay, so there are a ton of changes here, and arguably pretty material as well. As consumers, who's losing, who's impartial, and who wins. Starting with losers, if you were someone running a Chase trifecta with the Chase Sapphire Preferred Card, with the specific intent of transferring to Hyatt, then you're losing here. Technically, it might not be that bad, especially if you spend enough on the new categories, or you value the new perks enough to outweigh that 4-3 change. I might do a future video looking at the math, but for this one, it feels a little in the weeds. Outside of that though, it feels like that's the only negative. To be fair though, there are a lot of people that are impartial. If you don't care about gas or EV charging, then having new multipliers don't matter. Same thing if you have other cards and assuming that they stay the same way. In that case, you might already have gas covered as a category. Same thing with Airbnb. I'm not really an Airbnb person, so having it doesn't really benefit me. It's nice to have, but it doesn't really move the needle. If you already have a flagship card, then you'll also have insurance coverages. Lastly, if you're already invested in another ecosystem, then you might not want to have orphaned Chase points. I would argue that a lot of transfer partners usually do overlap in some way, so you probably could make it work. But yeah, totally understand why if you're already using a system that works, you might not want to add this card. In terms of winners, there's a few distinct groups. The first group are people just starting out. This ends up being one of the more approachable travel cards, given the top line annual fee and the effective number. Also, downgrade past in year 2. It's just very forgiving and a nice way to dip your toes in. The other group that's winning is the exact opposite, so people who are already in the end game, who already run a Chase trifecta with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, who are now adding this card for the 3x categories. You probably travel enough that the hotel credit is just one additional night somewhere, and you get better multipliers. A lot of people ended up running cards from Wells or Citi to cover those bases, so it means you can just keep it simple of Chase and have one currency. There also is a case of best of breed winners, so people looking for the best currencies. As much as I think Citi is underrated in some ways, a lot of people do feel like their points are a bit behind. If Citi is a step behind, then Wells is even further back with even less transfer partner options. If you're on team flights, then the base transfer rate is still 1-to-1, so all that Hyatt stuff doesn't impact you, you're still in a great spot. If you're on team cashback, it changes a bit, and it depends on how much you spend. If you're a lower spender, let's say $4,000 a year on gas and EV charging, then the US Bank Altitude Connect Visa Signature Card might make more sense. For cashback, if it's 4 versus 3, you're taking 4. If you do spend a lot more though, then it's functionally a math question. You also benefit if your focus is EV charging rather than gas. So there are other cards like the PNC Cash Rewards credit card that's 4% max on up to $8,000 spent per year, but for this purpose, it's only on gas stations. EV charging doesn't count here. The fact that it's uncapped also makes it interesting for a lot of people. If you spend a lot, then it can make a ton of sense, and especially if you're not looking to get business cards. For example, if you drive for Uber in San Francisco, you might be spending $1,200 a month on gas. The last group of winners are people looking to just try a new card. You have more credits to use, a lower effective annual fee, and the same optionality for year 2, whether that means switching setups or investing into one that you like. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. And if you're curious, all legal affiliate disclosures can also be found below in the description box. If you made it to this point, leave a bull emoji or a bear emoji, depending on if you're bullish or bearish on this change. 3 questions. Number 1, what are your thoughts on the multipliers? Number 2, do you think they could have or should have increased the annual fee? And number 3, do you care about the transfer rate given how you run the card? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, share this, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.